सो हेलो ऑल। आज हम fetch.js कवर करने वाले हैं, right? Not just fetch.js, it's the name of the file. Actually, we're going to be covering fetch API, right? Which is very popular among developers. And आप इसको बोल सकते हो कि it's the Gen Z of request sending APIs, right? Now देखो, अभी क्या है कि like in the last session we covered XML HTTP request, right? Which is the traditional way of sending the request. And I think it's very popularly known as AJAX as well. But fetch is something different. It sends request and it gives you a promise back. Okay. अच्छा, अब ये जो promise है ना, it's like the promise जैसा आप सोच रहे हो. द प्रॉमिस इज अबाउट कि या तो ये सॉल्व होगा या ये सॉल्व नहीं होगा. आई मीन या तो सक्सेसफुल होगा या सक्सेसफुल नहीं होगा. वेरी सिंपल है ना. देयर कैन ओनली बी टू पॉसिबल आउटकम्स, राइट? तो ये जो फेच है, विच इज द फंक्शन, व्हेन यू रन दिस फंक्शन एंड प्रोवाइड द यूआरएल, ये आपको बदले में एक प्रॉमिस देगा. हाउ डू आई नो? जैसे आप फेच के ऊपर अपना माउस लेके जाओगे, इन द रिटर्न टाइप इट टेल्स यू दैट इट्स अ प्रॉमिस which is coming in returns and it contains a response object. Okay. तो now we know कि हाँ चलो ठीक है, promise ही मिलने वाला है. But the question is, how can you handle this promise? See, as I told you, there can only be two possible outcomes. Either it will be successful or it will not. Simple as that, right? So you can actually chain two functions to it, which is dot then and dot catch, right? Both of these function takes a callback function as a value. You can either use arrow function or anonymous function, whichever you are familiar or comfortable with. Now, in then, you will receive the response object. As we just saw, the promise returned will contain a response object, right? So here I will simply write response, okay? And in the catch, see, the then is basically that function which will handle the success of the promise, right? If the promise actually gets completed. But on the other hand, the catch is there to handle the failure of the promise. What if the promise is not succeeded? So whatever reason is given back, कि इस वजह से promise is not able to complete, वो catch करेगा, right? On the other hand, if the request is successful, if the promise is successful, then it will give you a response object back, which then will catch. Okay, then इसी को handle करता है, right? So if I console.log response, on the other hand, if I console.log the error, and let's test if this works or not. So let's give it a try. Uh-huh. Boom. See, we are actually getting our response object back. But this response object, if you'll browse, it doesn't contain your response, right? Like the response you expected. It doesn't contain that, right? Status text, no, it's nowhere available. So how can I get my response back? So inside of it, inside of the prototype, you'll find a function called JSON, right? So the JSON function is available on the response only, right? So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be returning the response. This is one of the way of handling this, right? Response.json is what I'm going to be returning. So we are returning response.json, right? Which means here I can put another then. But why am I putting another then? What's so promising about this? So here, if you will take your mouse on JSON, you'll see that when you call the JSON function, this also gives you a promise back, right? So this function, this callback function is returning another promise. That is why we are chaining another then here. And this one will give us the data back finally, right? So I can put my parameter here. I'm going to be calling it data. And if I console.log the data, this is the final data that I need. Okay, see, boom. Now, why not another catch? Because one catch is enough, right? It can catch the error from this promise as well as this promise as well. Okay, so that is how the fetch works, right? So at this point, we know that how can we handle promise, how we can handle the error or the response which is coming from the promise. But in the next session, we will actually see that how can we create a promise of our own. Okay, thank you.